our fourth and final video in our series of videos exploring the exciting world of quadratics. In this episode, we will explore solving quadratic inequalities. My first example is x squared minus 9x plus 10 is less than a negative 8. And my second example is x squared minus 9x plus 10 is greater than or equal to minus 8. Now, as with our solving quadratic equations, our first step will always be to get 0 on one side of the inequality. In this case, or in both of these cases, I will get 0 on the right-hand side of the inequality by adding 8 to both sides. So I'm going to add 8 on the right side and 8 on the left side. Now my new quadratic becomes x squared minus 9x plus 18 is less than 0. All right, and yes, that is x squared. Over here, I'm going to also add 8 on both sides so I can get 0 on one side of the inequality. And this new problem becomes x squared minus 9x plus 18 is greater than or equal to 0. Yes, this is a squared as well. Okay, so the easiest way to solve a quadratic inequality is to look at the graph. In this particular case, I have gone ahead and graphed it, okay? And in our last episode, we talked about the solutions to the inequality. They are here. The solutions are here at 3 and 6, okay, where our quadratic or our parabola actually crosses the x-axis. To solve the inequality, let's go back and look and see what it's asking us. The first problem is asking us specifically, when is that quadratic less than 0? Okay, when we solved the corresponding equation, we looked at when it was equal to 0. And we determined that it was equal to 0 at 3 and 6. Now we want to know when it is less than 0. So I can actually see that my quadratic falls below 0 or below the x-axis, all right, at 3, and it's below the x-axis to 6. So the solution to that is when x is greater than 3 and less than 6. As long as my x value falls in this region here, all right, that inequality will be true. Okay, so my solution here is 3 less than x less than 6. Or I can write that in interval notation, open bracket 3 comma 6. The second part to this problem was I want to know when is that quadratic, x squared minus 9x plus 18, greater than or equal to 0. Okay, again, let's once again look at our graph. If we look at our graph here, we see that our quadratic is above 0 or above the x-axis, okay, when our x value is less than 3 and when our x value is greater than 6. See here how my quadratic is above the x-axis, and over here it's above the x-axis. That is when my quadratic is above 0. So in this particular case, I will have two solutions. I will have when x is less than negative or less than 3, and I will have when x is greater than 6. Okay, here x is greater than 6, my quadratic is positive, and over here when x is less than 3, my quadratic is positive. So going back to our problem, once again we have two solutions, x less than 3, x greater than 6. All right, we can write that in interval notation as negative infinity to 3, okay? But notice there's an equal sign, so I want to make sure that my solution has an equal sign because it's equal to 0 at 3 and 6. So again, here I'm going to have to use a square bracket. And over here, it's going to be square bracket because it wants to include 6 all the way to infinity. All right, and on these solutions, you'll usually see a U, which means or. So our solution is when x is less than 3 or x is greater than 6. This concludes our series of videos on quadratics. I hope you have enjoyed them as much as I have enjoyed making them.